All right, we're live to not preview. I'm sorry, I'm genuinely at a loss for words right now. We're live to review, of course, the second ODI between India and Australia, a game where India were cruising, for most parts. And to be honest, even till the 47th, I was like, "Ha, bhai, this is India's game to lose. We're not losing it from here." Unfortunately, not to be the case. Australia being Australia, doing Australia things in cricket. Of course, we've got Neha, we've got Shomi to sort of dig deep and talk about what did we just see today. Uh, I mean, I'm genuinely just speechless. Shomi, let's start with you. How are the thoughts right now? How are the feelings?
I think after this year, all the Indian fans will be completely numbed out. I mean, we just don't feel anything anymore. So, वो मुन्ना भाई का क्या था वो कौन सा आनंद भाई? I think that will be the kind of situation
Anand
we
bhai,
all
yep,
will be,
yep.
yeah, all will be in. But yeah, I mean, very disappointing, especially considering we were so close yet so far. Always the case, but this one because we were really hoping that we will level the series and take it to the last one for a series decider. That's very disappointing.
Very disappointing indeed. Neha, what about you? How are the feelings right now?
Absolutely at a loss of words here. Behind the smile is a lot of sadness, of course, because this is time and again, losing against Australia after being in a position of, I'm for the lack of a better word, I'm going to use dominance. And it's just the way the match panned out. I mean, the run chase was perfect, right? It was almost going to be perfect because we had Richa from one end. She was digging deep, literally giving it her all. And, wickets were falling, lack of responsibility from certain batters, catches dropped. It was just like absolute chaos, mayhem. And yet, ending up on the losing side is very hurtful. Like, I mean, we have so many talking points and reflections from this game. And I think even in our preview show, we brought in this aspect of how India will look to level the series. And after, the toss, also Australia won the toss. They decided to like bat first and everything. We thought, yeah, it could actually favor India because we are better at chasing. Yet it did not pan out in our favor. So yeah, extremely disappointed.
True, and like you said, too many talking points to talk about. I just don't know where to start from because, yeah, Richa Ghosh's innings, Deepti Sharma at the end, Deepti Sharma's bowling, India's bowling in general, India's fielding, of course. Way too many talking points. Let's शुरू से शुरुआत करते हैं अभी. First innings, India were bowling first. We saw how Australia went about their business. Indian bowlers, in particular, the spinners were really good. Their pacers, in all fairness to them, weren't bad at all. The fielding did not help their cause whatsoever. I mean, I just have to say fielding वो extempo में जैसे बोलते हैं ना बस एक topic देता है and yeah, show me go. I'll just say fielding, India's fielding in the first innings, show me go for it. Because there's nothing that we haven't spoken about. There's nothing that no one else has spoken about before that we can say now. But we still can't not be annoyed with the fact that India are being so careless with their fielding. I mean, I don't know if careless is the right word because yeah, because it's just sad. It's genuinely upsetting. Show me that fielding effort, man. Like how do you sort of put that in words?
I think it's so disappointing for us. I can't even imagine how much disappointing it will be for the bowlers. Something around 7 or 8 dropped catches, wrong DRS decisions, catches falling short. I don't know what went wrong. It was a very strange, funny afternoon for all everybody out there. Now, what's more disappointing is that in the last game, our bowlers did not quite do well, but in this one, they really put in everything that they had. We spoke about the seam bowling not being correct in length and line in the last ODI. Look at the way they came back, both Renuka and Pooja. We spoke about Pooja not being great in the opening spell. I think she just outdid everything and kind of proved everybody wrong when we spoke about that. Uh, in spite of that, they just didn't get the support from the field to combat with all of that. They kind of took everything in their own hand, and thankfully they did that. That we saw a lot of wickets going by sheer lbs and bowls and so on and so forth. But it's if you it felt criminal at a point of time that you just can't drop those kind of sitters and dollies and then expect to win this particular match. Same with Australia. They also fared very poorly on the field. And honestly speaking, looking back at this game, if any of, I mean, just looking at the way both the teams have fielded, none of them deserve to win this one. It's the nature of the game that one will pick it up, one will win. But honestly, it was a very disappointing show on the field, and definitely not expected from the two of the best teams in the world.
Yeah, definitely a proper race to the bottom when it comes to fielding today. Just that the better of the two fielding sides won. Daniel here mentions how did India win after so many drop catches from Australia? Bhai, if you think Australia dropped too many, I'm not sure if you followed the first innings there because India dropped 7 catches. So yeah, I don't think we can say Australia dropped too many. Of course, there was a dolly there as well. In my eyes, Australia dropped just that one catch of Richa Ghosh, just a straightforward dolly to Annabelle Sutherland and long off. The Beth Mooney one was a hard chance. Of course, kudos to her for making that effort to even try and convert that half chance into an actual opportunity. But yeah, I wouldn't still sort of consider that as opposed to India, which is dropping dollies left, right, and center. And yeah, it's just too upsetting right now. But Neha, Shomi mentioned a couple of points in terms of India's bowling and what we were looking forward to, and potential replacements or alternatives to Pooja at the top if needed. The spinners really came good though, so that wasn't so necessary. All three of them, Shriyanka, Sneh, Deepti, all three of them are off spinners. And I learned today that all three of them were the player of the match in the last 3 games that India have played across formats. Deepti being the player of the match in the last Sneh Rana being the player of the match in the last T20 India played. Deepti Sharma being the player of the match in the last ODI India won, which was I don't know when. And Shriyanka Patil, of course, being the player of the match in the third T20. Very interesting stat that, or rather very interesting piece of trivia that. But again, happy with how the spinners played in particular, because we'd spoken about how this sort of seems a bit too one-dimensional. We've got just 3 off spinners, no leggies, no slow left armers to boot. Happy with that?
Absolutely, no complaints with the bowling side of things, because in our preview show, we had predicted a score in excess of like 300, 290, and all that. And restricting Australia to 258 is actually pretty commendable. And leading from the front was definitely Pooja and Renuka, right? The kind of chances they generated, if they had even little support from the field, I'm pretty sure we would have had Australia like what, 3 or 4 wickets down within 10 overs, which is like half their side depleted. I mean, we know how Australia has their batting depth up till 8, but that would have still been advantage India to a great extent, right? And coming to the talking point of the spinners, I know we did reflect on how India's spin attack is looking very one dimensional with just the offies, but then we're talking about quality off spinners, like Sneh Rana, Deepti Sharma, and Shriyanka Patil. They definitely came to the party. We saw how Deepti Sharma, became the first Indian to register a fifer against Australia, and it was an amazing performance. She got crucial wickets, those breakthroughs that we have craved for in the middle overs, and we didn't let the match slip away. So, huge shout out to the spinners and the kind of role they played on this surface, because we were seeing how the pitch thoda change ho raha tha as the innings was progressing. So in that sense, I think our bowling was up to the mark. The fielding, and we will discuss, of course, the batting was something that really, really let us down today.
And just one more thing to sort of talk about there in the first innings. How much are we now sort of thinking about that 18 run over, 18 run 50th over, 2 6s by Alana King. Oh boy, just came to bite us at the worst possible time there. Show me, like, unfortunate, right?
Yeah, and she was dropped twice, not once, twice. And I mean, we know what kind of a cameo she can play, and she did exactly that. Have we had not got those 18 runs on board, probably it would have been a little easier a chase. But yeah, I mean, all that said and done, it's just very unfortunate to be on the losing side, especially in this particular one where we were so close, as we spoke about. Now, adding to also Neha's point about the off spinners, we spoke about that we have a problem of plenty, but look at the way it became a blessing in disguise for us, especially at a point of time when Sneh Rana was kind of getting hit for almost like a 6-7 run per over. At that point of time, how well Deepti and Shriyanka came into the party. Also, when Sneh Rana had to go off for a bit, it was these two girls who kind of hold the boat. Also, it was very interesting that right after Ellis Perry got out, the run rate suddenly dipped, and it was that point of time where Shriyanka and Deepti both, they had really taken the taken the realm over into their own hands, and have become very, very effective. Of course, the surface was also supporting, but just the sheer fact that both of these girls kind of took so much control of the situation, I think that helped us restrict the total to a great extent.
Fair enough. I mean, of the off spinners, there was a debutant as well, a player I've been looking forward to, of course, Shriyanka Patil. Fantastic debut for her in terms of how she bowled, in terms of how at ease she was. It didn't seem like this was her debut. Like, she's still a youngster, she's still a teenager, but yeah, the way she sort of, was just calm, composed, even when she got that wicket. I mean, usually when you get your first international wicket, you would, I mean, I personally would imagine that you'd have a lot more emotions. She's one of those, people who likes to also show those emotions, but she was very calm, very composed. Neha, happy with how she performed on debut today?
Absolutely. She really stood out in her debut. I mean, just look at her figures. Conceding just 43 runs in those 10 overs, getting the crucial wicket of Phoebe Litchfield, right? That is just perfect. These are things written in the stars. And I was quite impressed. She's able to get her line and length right, even though, she's hit for a few boundaries, the way she bounced back. And I think, mentioned in the preview show how her fielding is an asset to the Indian side, right? So in that sense, I was pretty happy that she's able to bring in those dimensions rather than just the bowling aspect. And yeah, as a fellow RCB fan, it's always nice to see your players, perform well at the center stage. And I think she's really carrying, this experience of having played in the WPL with, experienced stars of the game, playing in the CPL as well. So in that sense, I think she'll be very proud of her debut, but definitely not a match to remember, because losing by 3 runs is not the kind of place you want to be in. So yeah.
Definitely, and a lot of comments coming in, it's not the bowling, it's the batting. We'll definitely come to it. Like we said, shuru se shuruaat karte hain. We'll sort of go there. We will get to it. Of course, we have to talk about it. There's no way we're escaping that. Yeah, unfortunately, for the uninitiated, for those who are just joining us, India ended up losing the game by 3 runs. 259 is what they were chasing, and yeah, they somehow managed to make a meal of it. And we're here trying to sort of pick the bones of it. Just one last thing from the first innings. Of course, Australia's batting was really good. Again, Phoebe at the top. They have those batters. They know who needs to take responsibility, and that's pretty much been the difference. Something we spoke about even in the preview, that in the first ODI, the difference was Indian batters, pretty much all of them got starts. Not a lot of them converted those starts. As opposed to Australia, 4 of them got starts. All 4 of them managed to sort of score those 50s, 60s. Not the case with India. And sort of a similar situation. I mean, a similar trend played out today as well. A similar pattern played out today as well. Australian batters, plenty of them got starts. A lot more of them converted those starts than their Indian counterparts, and that sort of became the key point of difference eventually. Because yeah, I mean, how else can you sort of put that? There was just one thing that I wanted to ask Shomi in particular, because off air we were discussing. She mentioned about Herman's captaincy in particular and how it wasn't the greatest today, to say the least. So, I mean, in
Yeah.
terms of the field placements, in terms of how she was leading the side, why were you unhappy with her?
So, firstly, during the last after the last ODI, she came out and spoke about how the fielding had been disappointing, and today it was disappointing as well. And on top of that, she was one of the guys who one of the girls who kind of dropped an absolute sitter, and that of the Alana King, which definitely led to that 18 run over. So definitely one of the points of disappointment is around that. But beyond that, when it comes to the field placement, I was not particularly impressed with her today. To give you the example of the sixth over that Pooja Vastrakar bowled, that was an extended spell that she was doing. She was definitely coming along well, and it was expected that she will probably pick up a wicket there. But at that point of time, rather than putting up an attacking field, there was no slips at all. So it was just a little like beyond me, that why would she bring in a Pooja Vastrakar to bowl an extra over in her first spell, and in spite of that not give her an attacking field. This is just in contrary to what we saw from Elisa Hilly. The kind of the at a point of time, I think it was right pretty much in the beginning, she had a full slip cordon, she had a gully. It was so much more attacking. Apart from that, the kind of DRS decisions that didn't come along our way, the one in which it was a clear bold, and she missed that. After that, there was a absolute desperate call for a DRS, which we could all see right on the screen that it was nowhere. It would have got us a wicket. So So yeah, I mean, these kind of decisions, it definitely didn't show great on her part.
Fair enough. Neha, do you agree with those thoughts? And anything to add in terms of Herdman's captaincy there?
Yeah, I completely agree with those thoughts, and I echo a similar sentiment because not having a slip fielder, I think, did cost India early, and the field settings certainly seemed off, and even with respect to her batting, right? Like I did expect her to show up and take responsibility, but she just, I think, again threw her wicket away, and even with the batting positions, right? Like today, Jemmy came in at 3, and then she came in at 4. I feel like this is not giving a clear message to the batters as to what you want, and it's more on like on vibes or just on spontaneity basis that you're elevating and changing the batting orders. So in that sense, I've been quite bamboozled with her decisions, and also picking up on your point of the DRS calls going wrong. That Alisa Healy one was definitely something they should have reviewed, and they didn't. And when it came to Phoebe Litchfield, they did go for it. It was outside leg stump. Why would you go for that? Even as a fan, even as a lay person, I was like, do not, begging you, do not go for that. But they still went for it, and of course, backfired. So it's decisions like that kind of didn't really work well. But it also brings in another point. I think I remember reading this somewhere, that is Richa the best keeper we have at the moment, because in the test matches we saw Yastika as the keeper, and she was so instrumental in going for those reviews and decisions as well. So again, that was a thing, should India have been more proactive in going for the right reviews? I mean, this is the first time like BCCI has introduced the like DRS thing for our games here, right? So I think it's new for them as well, but a lot of lapses in her captaincy. But I think India will definitely have a lot to take away, I hope. And I hope they have like an honest conversation about, stuff that really didn't work out well.
100%. I mean, no two questions about it. More than honest conversations, they really need to have a talk about, how to go about such games and how to win them importantly. Because, of course, as cliched as it sounds, yeah, winning is a mentality. It takes time, to sort of understand how during those crunch moments, just to sort of handle the pressure, just to sort of, keep yourself calm. It doesn't come easy, it doesn't come naturally to most. So, yeah, we can only hope that it's onwards and upwards from here. Just one last thing from the first innings, of course, it was the collision. Sneh Rana and Pooja Vastrikar, they were involved in that collision that sort of eventually led to Sneh Rana being substituted by Harleen Deol, who came in as a concussion sub for her. Neha, let's start with you there. Sneh, despite that collision, came back, ended up finishing her quota of overs. What a player, man! What a player!
Absolutely. She's a champion. And every single time I'm echoing the similar sentiment to mom, like what a champion. She had that collision. She was off the field, and we could see how it was a very tearful, farewell back to the dugout. She came back, finished her spell. And I'm just like, what is she made of, man? Like, in spite of so much pain. And later, on the commentary panel, we got to know that she was facing nausea and there's a lot of vomiting. And then she was taken to the hospital. In spite of that, she continued playing. It really goes to show the kind of player she is. She wants to make her presence felt in that setup, and I think it's performances like this that really remind you that she should be there. And I think India did kind of miss her in the batting side of things as well, because she really infuses that positivity. And I think she could have struck some lusty blows that could have come in handy for India, but that was not the case today. Nonetheless, I think we should be proud of her that she came out in spite of that concussion, and here's praying for a speedy recovery. We really need her, right?
And I would just like to add there that, I mean, in not just that she came back and finished her quota of bowling, she was probably one of the few who were actually saving a few crucial runs. There was one very critical boundary that she saved. So yeah, I mean, she's anyway a gun of a fielder. We all know that. But yeah, the kind of commitment that she showed on the field today, I think that's very commendable.
Definitely, they'll definitely echo those thoughts. Sorry, and yeah, we can only hope that she's also back, match ready for the third ODI, which will happen on the 2nd of Jan, of course. So now I have time to move on to the all important, or rather, all curious second innings. We just, I even with the second innings, I'm just not too sure. Can't say start karo because yeah, I just want to go to the 47th over to the 46th over. And just, he was, what the hell was going on there? What was happening? But yeah, once again, let's just sort of go thoda sabka khatam karke. Let's sort of get to that so that we ensure from our end ki we've covered everything there is to be covered. We saw Yastika and Smriti open. Of course, that was also a new look opening combination, and Yastika was replacing Shafali, and out of form Shafali Verma. Lot of hopes, of course, probably didn't sort of play the kind of knock that we would have hoped for, but he can still early in her career. We can always hope that she does well going forward. Smriti, on the other hand, started off strongly. Unfortunately, gave her wicket away because, again, it was a positive matchup for her. The ball was also there to be hit. It's not like it was completely sort of, a ball that wasn't there to be hit. Neha, what did you make of that Smriti knock? Because, of course, she's also coming back from some sort of, I don't know, illness, niggle, jo bhi hai wo. So, yeah, so we're just unaware of what's exactly gone down with her. But not a bad innings or anything. There's nothing to sort of say bad about. But do you expect something more from your experienced campaigner?
Definitely. I mean, I think it was a very forgettable day for Smriti Mandana in all honesty because the kind of catches she was dropping, it was very, very unlike her. And even the knock she had, that 34 of 38, it just felt like she's not able to apply herself. I know, she struck 3 boundaries, got that one maximum as well. But somewhere you could feel that pressure kind of getting to her, because the run chase was obviously going to get very challenging. You've lost Yastika also early on. Richa has joined you at the crease. She's piling on the dots on one end, and you need to get that scoreboard ticking, right? So somewhere I felt that pressure actually took a toll and led to her dismissal because that shot was completely unnecessary. It was just coming off of a drinks break. You did not have to do that shot, right? It was mistimed. There was no power at all, so it was an easy catch also for Talia. It was obviously not going to be difficult, but as a senior player you expect responsibility. I felt that was really lacking from her today, and a few more runs from her, but I don't know, maybe we would have seen a very different result today. So yeah, she will definitely want to look back at this game.
Time to also talk about the number three. Show me. I remember the messages we were sort of putting on the group there in terms of how that performance is going about when she was at what 42 of 70 odd. You're like, even if she gets a 50 today, this probably shouldn't go on her record. But now in hindsight, now that the innings is done and dusted, now that match is done and dusted, how do you rate that innings? And happy with Richa Ghosh, the number three batter for India?
I think she needs to mature a lot more. Today, she didn't, I would say she probably didn't actually fulfill the role that she was supposed to. She was supposed to come in at a point of time and exactly in the kind of the situation where India was today, and from there to take up the role of really hitting it out, play fluent cricket. But we didn't quite see Richa Ghosh do that. In fact, when we saw, I mean, when Smriti's wicket happened, I somewhere felt that it was because of the fact that Richa was piling on the dots. Smriti wanted to take the pressure off, and as a result of which she gave away the wicket. I actually, in contrary to what Neha you felt, I actually felt Smriti was looking pretty nice, especially when she hit that maximum of Gardner. Then Darcy Brown, Akshay's favorite. She was actually bowling at a 120 plus, and Smriti was looking absolutely fluent when she was playing Brown. Just it was because of the fact that probably Richa was piling on the dots. She had to play such a stroke, or she just wanted to hit it out. Now, coming to Richa, of course, till the time she was in that 50s, 60s, she just did not apply herself. It became much better as she went along the innings. But again, I know people don't play for milestones, but at the same time, this was 100 that was on the cards, and it was not just 100. She was a set player. She should have batted probably a little bit more responsibly at that point of time. Also, looking back, the way the pitch was playing out, the commentators were constantly saying that it will gradually get difficult to bat in this track, so it's better to hit it out early. From all of those point of view, Richa Ghosh was disappointing. I will not take a very quick call on the fact that whether she's our right number three or not, because we have seen that she has the potential. She can hit, and she can. She also has credible cricket in her, which she showed in the test matches. So of course, I'll not take such a quick call. It's just her second match in the number three position. So maybe give her a little bit more of a rope, and then come back to this conversation. But today, we definitely expected more out of her.
Definitely, there are a lot of different strands to sort of, talk about because Richa, of course, one key battle that I was particularly looking forward to and had even mentioned during the preview was Richa Ghosh versus Pacers. Today at the top, we saw Kim Gard, who sort of came up with a fantastic spell, to be honest. It was just on point, ball in, ball out, and that was great to watch. And yeah, in some sense, I could sort of see why Richa was struggling because those lines were just too hard. And she was trying her best, but she couldn't just get going there. And later on, when Alana King came in, she was just trying to cut, and it was pretty much cut and miss every time she attempted. Yeah, it was not the most fluent of knocks. It was very very scratchy, but kudos to her for being able to sort of stick in there despite that. There were times, beg your pardon, there were times when even she seemed sort of, let me just give it away. It's just not working for me. It's just sort of maybe time for me to just sort of hit out or get out. Kudos to her for still managing to stick in there, and kudos to Jemmy in particular because I remember seeing Jemmy really motivating her, yeah, especially when she got to her 50. You could see a very animated Jemmy just sort of trying to shake her out of that bubble and be like, you know what, you're done. Just clean the slate. This is a new knock now. Just sort of clear her head, and kudos to her again. In fact, Richa is a very smart cricketer. This is something I've noted before as well. Last year, a couple of those knocks that she played in that India-Australia T20I series, she knows how to play the field, and not a lot of cricketers right now in the current setup do that. Like even today, we know how the field was. The offside was packed with fielders inside the circle. There were no fielders behind the square on the leg side. She was very smart. She knew what shot she needs to go for. She knew where the bowler is going to bowl. The number of times she shuffled and then played behind square on the leg side and the reverse sweep. I was actually going to message on the group कि यार ये reverse sweep try क्यों नहीं करिए, offside खाली पड़ा. And lo and behold, she did that. Neha, again, the same question to you. Richa Ghosh, number 3 batter. Do you think the jury's still out on her? Or are you happy or sort of unhappy with how she's performed so far?
So it's a mixed bag actually, and I was going to open this can of worms. Ki, is she ideal for this number three spot? Because I always believe that she was slotted into this team as a finisher. Right now, the moment you elevate her in that batting order, because she's usually coming in situations, at least in the two matches we have seen so far, when a wicket falls. So at least from our understanding and discussion, and even the discourse around the same, is that she's coming in at a situation where you need those fast runs. You need to be aggressive in that power play. Score those quick runs and everything. But somewhere when we were seeing her initial part of that knock, it was just so hard to see her, pile on those dot balls, because it really puts pressure on the other end batter. So that was getting really hard to see. And I think the jury's still out on her as this number three, because I don't want her to become this anchor sort of role player, because we know she has that power hitting ability, which kind of she unleashed in her shots in that latter phase of the game, right? But that initial phase was really, really difficult. So I think India will still have to, evaluate, give her more opportunities at number three. And if you still feel she's playing this anchorish type role, probably persist with her. And if the runs are coming, great. It's good for India that, you have this stable bat at number three. But I still believe, and I think even Shubha in that comment you passed there, put on the screen there, mentioned how Jemmy or Harman can also be ideal at number three. So yeah, I would really want to see how Richa persists at number three, but that initial phase was just really hard to see.
Definitely, and we'd spoken about India's batting depth and how we have 10 batting options for the first time in a long, long, long time. And I've sort of made it clear, ki boss, I love a side with plenty of batting and bowling options. I love seeing batting depth in my unit, and that's sort of a priority for me in some sense. So I was genuinely happy with how they've sort of structured this 11, and given the kind of chase they were involved in, this was the perfect 11 to have for this kind of a chase. Yeah, we still botched it up. So, of course, now time to talk about why we botched it up, how it happened. Let's go into that, lower middle order of this Indian lineup. Deepti Sharma, let's start with her. For me personally, I mentioned this even during the review of the last ODI. For me, Deepti Sharma, the white ball batter, does not add a lot of value. That does not mean she shouldn't be a part of the 11. She is a fantastic bowler, so there's by no means am I saying she shouldn't be in the 11. She should be at best batting at number 9 in the limited overs format. Red ball में चाहिए तो 6-7 पे खिला लो, no worries. But when it comes to white ball cricket, number 9 and below is where I see her, because she genuinely can't hit boundaries. Even after sort of getting set. Like ideally for a number 3, number 4 batter, you would want them to sort of take time to get set and then have those gears where they can accelerate. That's never really been the case with Deepti, or at least I personally have never really seen that. Haven't seen her accelerate frequently enough. So that's why this is how I feel, and that's why, in hindsight, again, this is in hindsight, strictly in hindsight, maybe they could have avoided sending Deepti Sharma in, at the end of the 35th over, which is when she came in, with 15 overs to go, and they needed about 110, 120 runs. They probably could have fancied their chances sending in Pooja, Amanjot, and Sriyanka above her, and sort of look at how it went about. And Deepti would have always been there for them. But yeah, seems like the Indian think tank rates her batting too highly, which has been the case all her career. So yeah, maybe I'm missing out on something there. Let's start with Neha. Deepti's batting, and how, in particular, how she went about it today. Because even when she began, she was at 8 for 18. I mean, 8 of 18, then 12 of 26, then 15 of 29, something on those lines. Given how that innings progressed, again, there was never really any acceleration, any aggression. Do you think Deepti, the white ball batter, still sort of holds any merit in this lineup?
I think when the management kind of looks at Deepti Sharma's order, place in that batting order, they still remember that 2017 knock of hers with Poonam Raut versus Ireland, where, they had that legendary partnership. But, in all seriousness, I think they really need to look at her position, because coming in at the 35th over, you expect some fireworks, right? I think, except her, all of us were in that panic zone. Ki, bhai, don't pile on the dot balls, just get runs, just move, just singles, doubles, do something. But no, it was not happening. And I think that is something that will cost India. And you cannot have a strike rate of 66.67 in a run chase versus Australia when the match is still very much in your control. I understand wickets were falling around her, but I think, as you rightly said, Deepti Sharma, the limited over batter, is kind of overrated. I mean, we've seen her, come with those timely knocks, but she's more of a second fiddle. But today, when wickets were falling around you, you have to take center stage. You have to try and hit those boundaries, right? So I think that is something she will really want to look into, if they have this honest conversation that, hey, what was that about? And again, I think it brings in this whole argument of, is strike rate an overrated thing? But in today's case, I think it definitely was. You cannot have 66.77 and then be like, yeah, it's all fine, because all of us were in that panic state, even the dugout, right? There was the sense of tension ki, "Arey yaar, kuch to karo." But yeah, it was kind of very disappointing to see that knock of 24 in 36.
Exactly. I mean, to sort of add more context to it, she scored at a strike rate of 66.67 when the required run rate was over 6, which basically means she needed to score in excess of 100, a strike rate of 100. Given that, again, show me, let's have you in as well. She came in at number 7 today, if I'm not wrong. Number 7, of course. Yep, number 7, 171 for 5 is when Harman got out. Given that, do you think, again, same question to you, Deepti, the limited overs batters, is there any value add to this setup right now? Or do you think, this was a one-off, she probably should be given a longer rope there?
I completely echo what Neha had just mentioned. I mean, definitely she's a very different kind of a batter with the white ball and the red ball format. Imagine a Jaddu coming in at a 7 and what he does, and there's no real comparison. But yeah, I mean, just to draw a relevant example. So yeah, I mean, very disappointing. Especially because of the fact that she was the one who was there for a longer period of time, and we were all expecting her to kind of take on the charge and start hitting somewhere, but it just did not happen throughout the match. So yeah, from that point of view, it's very disappointing. But beyond that as well, the point that we have spoken about before in the middle order problems of India, I think Harmanpreet Kaur not coming into the party is a bigger problem, because we all know what kind of caliber she brings on. And she could have been really the one who could have really played those big shots, played those maximums, and we know she can do that, right? And then be the captain who would have led from the front. So yeah, I mean, India's middle order problems are real, and as soon as we kind of address those, I think we'll have a few series in the bag.
Yeah, we can always hope for that. But that was also a very good point by Menak there. He speaks about, how most of our batting lineup struggles to pierce the inner circle, struggles to sort of, get the ball beyond it. And Deepti Sharma in particular, like the number of times she just sort of tapped it to cover, tapped it to extra cover, tapped it to even mid-off, and then running for a single. that's not what you want from your number seven batter right now. You want someone who's able to clear those boundaries, and which is why the debate about Richard Ghosh, the finisher versus Richard Ghosh, the number three batter is still sort of out there, because we don't know, we don't have a lot of players who can do that with ease. We did have one today at number 8, Pooja Vastrakar, but unfortunately, yeah, got out at the worst possible time there. And again, like, how do you make of this? Because it was number 7 Deepti, number 8 Pooja, number 9 then came in, of course, Amanjot Kaur, number 10, or rather, sorry, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 10 Shriyanka, of course, 9 9 Harleen, and 8 Amanjot Kaur. Were you happy with that promotion that Amanjot Kaur got? I mean, not exactly promotion, but she coming ahead of Harleen Deol and Shriyanka Patil. Do you think there was merit to that? Because, of course, she's also an aggressive batter, and you knew you needed runs, you needed quick runs. So, fine with that decision?
I mean, I wasn't really happy with that because I felt they could have saved her up for the end. But I think the intent of sending her up early on was to, get those boundaries, to tonk some. But even the way she was batting, I just felt she was leaving the wicket open. And we saw how Annabelle Sutherland got the better of her, right? And I think somewhere, this might be going too far. I felt there was complacency, somewhere with the batting because itna confidence we had ki, "Arey, we have the batting depth, we have batting till 9, batting till 10. Harleen is also coming in place of, and concussed Sneh Rana. So somewhere I felt like there was this mentality ki, if not me, there will be someone who will come. But then if everyone ended up thinking that way, you just end up losing wickets, right? And that kind of really costed India. And as we can see with the margin as well, like, I mean, cricket at the end of the day is all about margins. We just lost by 3 runs. But then that intent was certainly not there. And that's why due credit goes to win Australia. Like that Annabelle Sutherland over where, she was able to control those runs, get the crucial wickets. I think that was like an absolute game changer in that sense. So India would definitely want to look into how they want to slot in their batters. Because every game, if you're changing your strategy, kabhi tum Jamie ko third pe bhej rahe ho, then you're sending Harman at 4. And even with the lower middle order, which carries so much importance and context in a run chase like this, if you're mixing things up, it just seems very spontaneous rather than well thought of strategies. Yeah.
Fair enough, and that's the thing, right? That's also a part of your mindset and how you sort of think about it. Annabelle Sutherland, it's not like she was having a great game throughout. She herself was sort of fighting those nerves. She was bowling quite a few wides. She was being a bit wavered, so to say. But every time she attempted a Yorker in those final 2 overs that she bowled, the 48th and the 50th over, she got it right. She executed it, and that's all down to handling pressure and being in a setup that's filled with superstars like Elise Perry, like Elisa Healy, like, you can take any name, to be honest. I was trying to think of names and I was like, yaar, kisi ka bhi naam bol de. मैं PB Litchfield भी बोल सकता हूँ confidence के साथ, and it would still mean just as much, because that's how they're built. They're built differently. They know what it is to sort of handle pressure when it comes to such situations. Again, a couple of questions before we wrap the review up. I mean, not the greatest of results. This is the last live stream of 2023 for cricket.com. So, peeps, do make sure you're hitting the like button right now. Please do that so that, YouTube promotes it, because that's how live streams work. Also, do subscribe to us if you haven't already. Last live stream of the year, last game of the year that we will be reviewing. Time for a very important question. We saw how the second innings panned out. In hindsight, what do you both think was the turning point of the game? Shomi, let's start with you. Turning point of the game. I know there are plenty of them, to be honest, but if you had to pick one, what would it be for you?
I think it would be Jemima's wicket. I think that was a fantabulous catch by Phoebe Litchfield. So I think that was a turning point. Had she been there for a few more overs, I think it would have been a much different game for us.
Fair enough. Neha, what about you?
Again, there's, a lot, that could have been that game-changing moment. For me, definitely had to be Richa's dismissal, because initially, we criticized her a lot for that start and the dot balls and everything. But somewhere, she was easing in and able to get those things in spite of the cramps and that hamstring problem that she was facing. So I felt like her dismissal also was a big turning point. And again, reiterating my point of that Annabelle Sutherland, spell in the latter part of the game that really tilted things in Australia's favor, because the rest of the bowlers were still in that thinking, India might still end up chasing it. But the belief that Annabelle Sutherland had, it really worked well for Australia, and kind of even justifies, the price tag that she went in the auctions. So I'm excited to see a lot of her in the Women's Premier League. But to answer your question, it definitely had to be these two moments.
Wow, fair enough. I mean, my first point was Jamie's wicket. Show me took it. So I was like, you know what, I'll go to Richard's again. Then Nia took it. I'm like, okay, you know what? I have no turning points. I'm done. There's no point trying to think more about this game because it's only going to give me more pain. Let's just take a couple of viewer questions before we wrap this up. Mohammad Irfan, he goes on to ask, do we lack in physical strength versus Australia? Because all Aussie men and women are gifted with physical strength. Seems like the bodies are built for sports in general. Interesting question, interesting point. Shomi, let's start with you. We know you are a fitness freak. So agree with this, disagree with this. What do you make of it?
Absolutely, yes. I mean, just see the difference what a Virat Kohli's captaincy and a Virat Kohli era had brought into the men's side. So it kind of very much reflects on how somebody performs on the field. It's just not physical; it's also a lot of confidence. It's also a lot of mental strength that being fit kind of brings along. So yeah, I mean, we cannot absolutely take fitness of a field of a game like this.
Fair enough. Neha, what about you? Echo those thoughts in terms of, Australia being physically superior, if I mean, for the lack of a better word, yeah, I'll just say superior than India.
Agreed. I mean, the other thing that I want to reflect on was the kind of structure that Australia has built for sports in their country, right? It starts right at the grassroots level. You have a very vibrant sporting culture right from the school level up to, college, university, and everything. I think that has worked wonders for them. It has given you stars across so many levels. Their domestic structure is brilliant. And even the kind of like in India, we usually look at sports like, okay, let's just focus more on academics, and sports is secondary. I believe the narrative is changing now, but it's very slow, right? So I think from in Australia, the importance given to sports and this whole nutrition fitness part is right from their childhood, right? Because you see Australia's team, Phoebe Litchfield is just 20 and she's already a superstar. The kind of year she has had, brilliant, right? It really goes to show the kind of investment that Cricket Australia has made in that setup that is delivering and reaping so much of dividends for them. So yeah, looking at that, definitely.
Also, I think the kind
100%.
of sport. Also, I think the kind of sport that they play apart from cricket. I mean, all of these people probably would have had either a soccer or a rugby kind of a background, which are definitely the more popular sports in schools and colleges. There, I've lived in Australia for a while, so I've kind of known the culture. But yeah, I mean, I think those kind of games make you physically fit. Of course, they are that adds on, but since these are very hardcore, very hard, highly fighting kind of a game. So the mental strength always comes along.
100% agree with both those points, and again, it sort of has to do with culture. This is a conversation I've had plenty of times on a live stream before, where again, of whatever limited experience I've had of talking to people there, of staying there, culturally, of course, it is different. Sports is a part of their culture. It is very intrinsic to them. You go to a Bondi, you go to Coogee on a Sunday morning, you'll find families there actually, engaging in some activity, not just chilling around, actually engaging in activities, walks, volleyball. It can be anything. Not really the case in India. Also, another thing that I personally feel really sort of helps them and also helps them with the whole mental side of it is the fact that Australia isn't a one sport country like India. In India, it's all about cricket. So we are obsessed with cricket. So there's a lot of talk, a lot of chatter, a lot of eyeballs on cricket. Not the case with Australia. In fact, in Australia, cricket is the seventh most popular sport. That just goes on to show how much how little they value cricket, so to say. And that's the case with every other sport because every sport is treated equally. It sort of the pressure sort of dissipates because now you know what, this isn't the only sport he ke ye wo karke. They're not there's not just as much pressure, and that sort of plays a part somewhere. As far as grassroots level cricket is concerned, oh my goodness, yeah, let's not go down that road right now. I can talk for hours and hours together about how it works for them, why it doesn't work for us. There's the Australian Institute of Sport, and set up 30-40 years ago. We've seen legends of Australian cricket come from that. So yeah, I mean, we are a long way away. Of course, it must be. I mean, it is changing here, but the change I feel is far too gradual for my liking. But yeah, I mean, we can sort of always hope that things change. yeah, I mean, again, the thing is, there's just so many sort of points coming into my head that I want to sort of talk about. Yeah, it's, no, 30th of December, it's India versus Australia. India have lost the game. Let's just stick to that. We'll definitely have a lot of this chatter during the watch-alongs, of course. So people who are unaware of it, for the India-Australia T20 eyes, Shomi, Neha, and I will be doing watch-alongs for all three of them. So do tune in for that as well. It'll be great fun. We'll be talking about all things cricket and all of these questions. Yeah, it's finally time to wrap up. Sort of not exactly happily, but yeah, it is time for us to wrap up. Kushal, thank you so much. He says, I was introduced to your channel this year, and it is by far the best no nonsense cricket analysis content we get in the country. Have a nice couple of days off and happy new year. Thank you so much, Kushal. You've made my day. You've also made my year. Thank you so much. It's thanks to viewers like you that we also are motivated to come up with as good content as possible. Thank you so much once again. Nostalgic also goes on to say Deepthi is a number 11. Why are we sending her? I mean, why are they sending her up the order? Same thing happened in the Commonwealth T20 final, the T20 World Cup semi-final. She played too many dot balls and let the game slip away. Of course, yeah, there is a fairly decent sample size, that's going against Deepti's batting credentials. Yeah, let's hope the Indian think tank know what they're doing, and that's all we can hope for. It is right now time for us to wrap up. Thank you so much, peeps. Thank you so much, everyone. It's been great bringing this review to you guys. Jan 2nd, of course, will be the final ODI. Let's hope India can at least do a 2-1, if not a 3-0 for Australia. Fingers crossed, at least that doesn't happen. Until then, it's a goodbye from all of us. Have a great day. Have a great year. A happy, happy, happy new year in advance. I'll also let Shomi and Neha, sort of wish you guys as well before we sort of wrap this up. The stage is yours.
Wish you a very happy new year, guys, and it was fabulous to be on this platform with Akshay and Neha. We have thoroughly enjoyed the previews and the reviews that we have been doing for the last few days and maybe a week around. But yeah, I think let all of us have a great new year, and we'll see you back in 2024.
100%. Neha.
Yeah, I mean, 2023 has been that year across the men and women frontier. It's just been a lot of grief. So we've had our happy moments as well. But here's hoping, we enter 2024 with a renewed zeal, and we, get across the line in those knockouts, and they don't come to haunt us. But on that note, I'm also very grateful, to cricket.com for the opportunities given. It's been really fun doing these preview and review shows with you. And I'm so excited for the watch-alongs as well, because we get to talk a lot more. And even all the viewers who have joined us, asking those wonderful questions, really picking our brains. So thank you so much for that. And yeah, here's wishing all of us a happy new year.
All right, it is time to let you peeps go then. Thank you so much, people. Once again, wishing you a happy, happy, happy new year. May you all have a great New Year's Eve. May you all have your wishes come true. And let's hope RCB wins the next IPL and WPL. That's it from us at cricket.com for 2023. This is Akshay Kumar Swamy signing off. Good night.